Hi, I'm Mark Best. Welcome to my home. Today we're going to cook a very famous tart. It's called the Hôtel Tatin, which is basically an apple tart. It was invented by the Tatin sisters in the Loire Valley in about 1880, and it's a perennial favourite of everyone. I mean, it's pastry, caramel, apple, sugar. I mean, what's not to love? But this is an apple tart, the classic Hôtel Tatin. So you see this tiny little apple. This is a gala. You can use Gala, Jonathan, Fuji. These are the varieties that are available in Australia that I find most suitable. You can also use Granny Smith, but I find them very acid and also they collapse a bit more. These hold their form. Being a chef, I'm quite picky about peelings. Most people just go at it like budgie pecking its own mirror, but I like to use long strokes like this, cut it in half. And this is a Parisian scoop. So just find the size that fits your core and then turn it out. Take the core out completely, take that stem out. For this size pan, I'm going to need a dozen apples, but have a couple more because you never quite know. You need to overlap them because they're going to shrink. So now we're going to make the caramel. We've got 2 cups of sugar. We've got about 100 grams of butter. We have the juice of 1 orange. We're just going to take that to a very dark caramel, about 155 degrees. Quite dark and smoking a little, which I like because a little edge of bitterness which takes away from the sweetness. 2 cups of sugar going into here. Turn your heat up to moderately high. This will take a couple of minutes. You can see all the smoke coming off the side there as that's getting a little too hot. Just stir that in. Keep it cooking nice and evenly. You can see it really coming together now, and I'm going to call it. Just take it off the heat. I'm going to add a good knob of butter, and that's about 100 grams, and straight into the pot. Stir that. Just watch out for any splatter. We just want to add that little bit of orange juice. We end up with a nice smooth caramel. Now that the caramel's ready, and while it's hot, put it straight into the pan I'm going to bake the tart in. So the enemy of pastry is heat. To lay the apples in. Remember, it's an inverse tart. The pastry's on top. We're going to flip it outside is going to be the presentation side. I like to get in there and half lap them. Start at the outside and lay them around. You can see these apples have oxidized a little bit while we've been cooking, but that doesn't matter because they're going to be cooked in caramel anyway. And then continue around the center. As I said before, I've used 12 apples here, and this is the center one. It's quite nice when that works out exactly like that. We're up to pastry. I have my own puff pastry. You can certainly go and buy a good quality puff, which uses natural butter. This is about 1 kilo. I'm going to use half. This makes 2 tarts. A little bit of flour, not too much. When you're rolling out by hand, you want to roll across the corners, otherwise you end up with an odd shape. You need to roll it out so you can cut a nice circle the size of our pan. And the thing about pastry is, especially with the strong gluten content, is that it tends to shrink back a little bit. So after you've done each process, just put it back in the fridge for 10 minutes minimum. Just let it relax a little bit. We want it about this much bigger than our pan, so that's looking quite good. I'm not going to eyeball it. I'm just going to use a lid here, which is the right size. Cut around like that. So this is where the method to my madness is. The pan is nice and cool. We just have to lay our pastry on top. If the pan was hot, this pastry would already be melted. You just want to get a little knife or a little spatula and you're lifting up my apples and poking the pastry down underneath. Work quite quickly. Right, and now this is called docking. This allows the stem to escape and allows the underside of the pastry to cook as well. Put this into the preheated oven at 180 degrees. Don't try this at home, kids. That's going to take 45 minutes, an hour. I'm going to show you what to look for. Just puffing, getting nice and golden. There's nothing worse than undercooked pastries. Put that back in for another 20 minutes or so. See the bubbles of caramel coming up and the puff just gently rising and falling. It's not quite dark enough yet. Another 5 minutes or so. So we're ready. So this is it. You can see that beautiful uniform colour. It's floating in the pan like that, and that's a mark that it's ready. This is where heroes are made. This is the flip, 1, 2, 3, like, and then lift off. How good does that look?